That's a broader issue, one that we will not take up here today. The hour of convening has arrived, and the Senate will come to order. There doesn't appear to be any unauthorized guests, but if there are, if you could exit the chamber, that would be greatly appreciated. It's my honor to recognize the timely Rules Chairman. Thank you so much for being here on time again today. Appreciate your service.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm a man of duty. My dad was, and I am. It's in my blood. I can't help it. But thank you, and thank you for your service and your leadership. I truly appreciate it, and the state's going to miss you. A couple of moments in time in history.
I'm not moving out of the state.
Well, I'm talking about your position.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, though. In fact, the senator from the 7th, who's not here, as well as not many others, told me that today is his favorite day. It is the day that the Barbie doll debuts at American International Toy Fair in New York, and over 800 million have been sold, and he is a big fan of Barbie. Also, the senator from the 51st told me in 1975, construction of the Trans-Alaskan pipeline system begins, something I think that we need more of right now. With the price of gas, I saw it at $4.75 a gallon in Atlanta last night.
Don't you drive a Tesla?
No, sir.
Oh, it's the other.
No, sir.
Okay.
In fact, let me say on the electric car, they are plugged in and fueled by gasoline products and those kind of things. All right, and also the senator from the 56 told me this is one of his favorite days. It's National Crab Meat Day. With all the crabs he meets here, I can get that. Also, the senator from the 37th, who's not here, he told me this is National False Teeth Day. And when he whistles, when he talks, I understand that. Mr. President, the journal's been read and found to be absolutely correct.
That took a lot longer than we anticipated. Is there objection to dispensing with the reading of the journal? The chair hears none, and the reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators who have bills or resolutions, please bring them to the secretary's desk at this time. We are running out of time. First reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions, please.
Senate Bill 613 by Senator Summers of the 13th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 20 of the OCGA relating to education so as to change certain definitions to provide equal treatment of students in administration.
Education and youth.
Senate Resolution 637 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd and others, a resolution recognizing the Honorable Mayor Ray Crowder and dedicating an intersection in his honor and for other purposes.
Transportation.
Senate Resolution 638 by Senators Orrick of the 36th and others, a resolution recognizing and commending Judy Davis Walker and for other purposes.
Rules.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions, please.
House Bill 1 by Representatives Bonner of the 72nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to education generally so as to provide for public forums at public institutions.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1013 by Representatives Ralston of the 7th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Titles 15, 20, 31, 33, 37, 45, and 49 of the OCGA relating to courts, education, health insurance, mental health, public officers.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1039 by Representatives Jackson of the 128th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48.740.34 of the OCGA relating to tax credit for Class 3 railroads and reporting.
Finance.
House Bill 1040 by Representatives Bentley of the 139th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 8 of Title 49 of the OCGA relating to economic rehabilitation services so as to require community action agencies to submit audit reports and
Health
IRS.
and Human Services.
House Bill 1042 by Representatives Jespers of the 11th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 30 of the One Georgia Authority Act so as to provide for a grant
Health
program.
and Human Services.
House Bill 1084 by Representatives Wade of the 9th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 20 of the OCGA relating to education so as to prevent the use of and reliance on curricula or training programs which act upon, promote, or encourage certain concepts with
Education
exceptions.
and Youth.
House Bill 1194 by Representative Crow of the 110th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 40-1-8 of the OCGA relating to safe operations of motor carriers.
Transportation.
House Bill 1304 by Representatives Hawkins of the 27th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 31 of the OCGA relating to health so as to create the Georgia Caregivers Act to provide for definitions to require hospitals.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1319 by Representatives Werkheiser of the 157th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 3 of Article 7 of Chapter 3 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to Georgia Student Finance Authority so as to provide for the Georgia
Higher
LE.
Education.
House Bill 1344 by Representatives Clark of the 147th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 45-2-9 of the OCGA relating to state agencies not to discriminate in employment
Veterans,
against.
Military, and Homeland Security.
House Bill 1475 by Representative Leverett of the 33rd, a bill to be entitled an act to create a Board of Elections and Registration for Elbert County and to approve.
State and Local Government.
House Bill 1476 by Representative Leverett of the 33rd, a bill to be entitled an act to amend, consolidate, and supersede the several acts incorporating the City of Colbert, approved February 14th.
State and Local Government.
That can be the order, Mr. President.
Ms. Secretary, will you please read reports of standing committees?
Mr. President, the said Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs has had under consideration the following legislation, has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 512 do pass by substitute and Senate Bill 572 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Walker of the 26th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Education and Youth has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 588 do pass, Senate Bill 601 do pass. Additionally, notice of a minority report of Senate Bill 601 has been filed. Respectfully submitted, Senator Payne of the 54th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Ethics has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 580 do pass and Senate Resolution 623 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Burns of the 23rd District Chairman. Mr. President, the said Committee on Government Oversight has under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 272 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Harbin of the 16th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Government Oversight has under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 535 do pass by substitute and Senate Bill 528 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Harbin of the 16th District Chairman. Additionally, there is notice of a minority report for Senate Bill 535. Respectfully submitted, Senator Harbin of the 16th District Chairman.
Good job. You can read all those notices.
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Government Oversight has had under consideration the following The Senate Committee on Health and Human Services has under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Resolution 584 do pass by substitute, Senate Bill 539 do pass by substitute, Senate Bill 573 do pass by substitute, Senate Bill 609 do pass by substitute, Senate Bill 610 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson of the 1st District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor has had in consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 532 do pass by substitute and Senate Bill 605 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Burke of the 11th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor has had in consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 487 do pass by substitute, Senate Bill 566 do pass by substitute, and Senate Bill 468 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Burke of the 11th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary has had in consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 171 do pass by substitute, Senate Bill 227 do pass by substitute, Senate Bill 354 do pass by substitute, Senate Bill 499 do pass by substitute, Senate Bill 504 do pass, Senate Bill 543 do pass, Senate Bill 552 do pass, Senate Bill 565 do pass by substitute, Senate Bill 576 do pass, Senate Bill 577 do pass, Senate Bill 599 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Natural Resources and the Environment has had under consideration the following legislation, has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 553 do pass by substitute and Senate Bill 591 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Harper of the 7th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that Senate Bill 76 do pass by substitute and House Bill 963 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers of the 56th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation that Senate Bill 536 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Kauser, the 46th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation that Senate Resolution 463 do pass, Senate Resolution 525 do pass, Senate Resolution 546 do pass, and Senate Resolution 613 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Mullis of the 53rd District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Governmental Operations has had in consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation that House Bill 1407 do pass, House Bill 1431 do pass, House Bill 1432 do pass, House Bill 1463 do pass, House Bill 1465 do pass, House Bill 1466 do pass, House Bill 1470 do pass, House Bill 1471 do pass, House Bill 1472 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Anderson of the 24th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President. Additionally, there is notice of a minority report filed with Senate Bill 504, and there is notice report of a minority report filed with Senate Bill 171. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Mr. Secretary, will you please read bills and resolutions for the second time?
Senate Bill 167 by Senator Org of the 36th and others, retirement, semi-annual post-retirement benefit adjustments for all beneficiaries of the Employees Retirement System of Georgia provide. Senate Bill 328 by Senators Mullis of the 53rd and others, education designated of a nonprofit organization to govern high school athletics in the state provide. Senate Bill 377 by Senator Hatchett of the 50th and others, state government take measures to prevent the use of curricula or training programs which act upon, promote, or encourage certain concepts with exceptions require state agencies. Senate Bill 421 by Senator Huff-Stetler of the 52nd and others, Georgia Utility Rate Reduction Act, GURRA enact. Senate Bill 491 by Senator Davenport of the 44th and others, revenue and taxation, a qualified down payment savings program to be implemented by the Department of Revenue create. Senate Bill 498 by Senator Tibbins of the 37th and others, education accountability, recognition of certain accrediting agencies as reliable authorities as to the quality of education offered in secondary schools provide. Senate Bill 516 by Senator Robertson of the 29th and others, solid waste management, environmental protection division to contract the Department of Revenue to collect certain fees require. Senate Bill 545 by Senator Halpern of the 39th and others, core curriculum, schools to provide training in first aid, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, and the use of automated external defibrillator for students in grades 9 or 10 require. Senate Bill 558 by Senator Gooch of the 51st and others, Department of Transportation, meetings for the election of board members, amend notice provisions. Senate Bill 575 by Senator Tibbins of the 37th, education, local boards of education shall review the financial status of the local school system at least quarterly rather than monthly, subject to an exception provide. Senate Bill 581 by Senator Walker III of the 20th and others, property boundary lines, plane coordinates for defining and stating geographic position within the state of the Georgia State Plane Coordinate System, designate. Senate Bill 586 by Senator Gooch of the 51st and others, road projects, the use of design-build contracting method by counties authorized. Senate Bill 603 by Senator Robert of the 5th and others, public school property and facilities and outdoor learning spaces pilot program provide. Senate Resolution 507 by Senator James of the 35th and others, Coleman, Benton, Carey, recognize. Senate Resolution 542 by Senator Anderson of the 43rd and others, Women Veterans Day recognizing the first Tuesday in March of every year. Senate Resolution 544 by Senator Rhett of the 33rd and others, World Taiwanese Chamber of Commerce commend. Senate Resolution 596 by Senator Ginn of the 47th and others, Isaiah Coach Berry Memorial Intersection, Barrow County, dedicate. Senate Resolution 603 by Senator Butler of the 55th and others, Russian government illegally and immorally invading Ukraine, condemn. House Bill 1302 by Representative Bonner of the 72nd and others, income tax one-time tax credit for taxpayers who filed returns for both 2020 and 2021 taxable years provide. House Bill 1320 by Representative Knight of the 130th and others, Revenue and Taxation, Internal Revenue Code and Internal Revenue Code of 1986, define terms and incorporate certain provisions of federal law into Georgia law. House Resolution 664 by Representative Green of the 151st and others, property, conveyance of certain state-owned property authorized. House Resolution 683 by Representative Green of the 151st and others, property, granting of non-exclusive easements authorized. That completes the order, Mr. President.
All right, it's now time for our morning devotional. Oh, no, actually, we're going to do roll call first. Let's do that. It's now time for our morning roll call. If you're not here, report to the senator from the 33rd. He's compiling a list right now. You can reach him online or via Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Is that how you collect all your absentees? Are there any motions to excuse? The chair recognizes the senator from the 33rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, y'all. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senators from the 43rd and 22nd.
Light day today.
Outside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senators from the 43rd and the 22nd are excused. The chair recognizes the senator from the 20th.
Good morning, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 47th for business inside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 47th is excused. The chair recognizes the senator from the 5th.
Mr. President, I ask you for unanimous consent to excuse senator from 6th.
Without objection, the senator from the 6th is excused. The chair recognizes the senator from the 28th, the distinguished senator from the 28th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 25th for business outside the Capitol.
Without objection, senator from the 25th is excused. The chair recognizes the senator from the 41st.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 42nd.
Without objection, the senator from the 42nd is excused. Are there any additional motions to excuse? Secretary will call the roll. Senators, signify your presence by voting the yea switch. The secretary will unlock the machine. What purpose does the senator from the 40th rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 27th.
Without objection, the senator from the 27th is excused. 27th?
Thank you, Mr. President. It's the senator from the 26th.
26th. Without objection, the senator from the 26th is excused. The 27th is here.
Sorry.
Is that right? All right, it's now time for morning devotional, and I ask that all senators take your seats, cease all audible conversations, and ask that the doorkeepers secure the chamber at this time. It's my honor to recognize a senator from Perry to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance and introduce us to our chaplain of the day.
Thank you, Mr. President. Please join me as we pledge the United States flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Georgia flag. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag and to the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, and moderation. Colleagues, it's a real privilege and treat for me today to introduce you all to Rabbi Markovitz, and his lovely wife Kaya is here with us today too. I'm told that both of their names in Hebrew mean life, and that's pretty cool to me that they both have the same Hebrew name, basically first name. Anyway, Rabbi Markovitz is with the Chabad of rural Georgia, He grew up in Sydney, Australia, as the grandchild of Holocaust survivors. He graduated with a degree in advanced rabbinics in Pretoria, South Africa, and has served 15 years of international rabbinic studies behind him. Chabad is the largest Jewish community organization with over 5,000 locations and representatives across the globe. Rabbi Markovitz and his wife, Kala, are the first Chabad focused on rural areas in the United States. Their mission is to serve the residents of rural Georgia to enhance their physical and spiritual lives with the wisdom and teachings of the Torah. They specifically focus on finding their fellow Jews, offering counsel, community, engagement, and most important of all, a relationship and friendship. As you all know, we do not have synagogues in a lot of our rural areas of the state, and so that's his mission field, to connect with Jews in those areas. So please give a Senate welcome to Rabbi Markovitz.
Good morning. Just as an opening, I want to say thank you to former State Representative Mitchell Kaye and to Senator Larry Walker. Thank you guys for bringing me here. It's more than an honor for me to have the opportunity to speak in front of such an illustrious group, especially that I myself am I'm an immigrant to this country, and so I'm indebted to all of you for creating a country that's so welcoming to me. Thank you. And at the same time, I recognize my darling wife, who came out with me. She's the rock of my life and holds me together. So thank you. Senator Walker mentioned that most of the cities and towns all over Georgia don't have synagogues, and so I'd like to share with you a story if you've got a moment. I'm driving on the way down to Milledgeville from Atlanta, where I live. Milledgeville is a lovely city, and on the way we decide we're taking the scenic route through a town called Monticello. Monticello has a large population. It's about 3,000, and we don't know any Jews there yet, so we stop in the center of the town to go to all of the stores. This is what I do. This is my entire career, right? I go to the center of town, I look in every store, hey, do you know anyone Jewish? And of course, everyone reacts the same way. What? Like, why are you looking for someone? Like, what's that? Like, some people don't even know what someone Jewish is. Okay, so store after store after store, and this town is a Mennonite town, so they're not, they don't know anyone Jewish yet. And store after store, finally someone says, you know, why don't you go to that coffee shop right out there and ask the fellow at the coffee shop. So off we go to the coffee shop, and as I walk up to the door, it flies open, and a guy marches out, jeans and a jacket with a iced tea in his hand, exactly what I expected, and like full of energy, he says, hello, Southern hospitality. I'm like, g'day mate, how are you? And he says, I'm good. He tells me his name is Adam. He's the real estate fellow, the real estate agent in this town. And so I'm like, okay, you're the real estate guy, you must know, do you know anyone Jewish? He says to me, Jewish? Starts thinking, do I know anyone Jewish? He's thinking. He remembers that years ago his neighbor was Jewish. Okay, where does your neighbor live? Down that road, turn left, second house, white picket fence, there she is. Okay, so off we go. We go to this lady's spot, and we knock on the door. I'm there with a maid, two men, my size, and who's going to open the door and smile at us, right? It's weird when someone knocks at your door like that, unannounced. So there I am knocking, and a lady comes and opens the door. And her first impression is like absolute shock, like, what is this? And then it's a moment of emotion. And we discover no one has ever bothered to knock on her door. I'm the first guy in I don't know how many years, decades, that a rabbi has knocked on her door to bring her a moment of what belongs to her, of her tradition. And that's my mission. But I tell you my story not just because that's what I do and I want to tell you all about myself, but rather because there's a lesson in it for all of us present. In Psalms, I'm going to drop a verse on you, okay? Hold on, be patient. Psalms chapter 37, verse 23. If you've got a book, you can open it. The Hebrew says, "May Hashem mitzadei gever koinonu." Okay, the English translation is coming. The footsteps of man are directed by God. Okay, I see people are checking. Chapter 37, verse 23, you'll find it there. Jewish thought teaches us that every footstep that a person takes, every move that a person makes in their life is directed by God. In fact, not just directed by God, by planned. God planned these before the 6 days of creation. He already has it worked out that Chaim's going to be here and someone else is going to be there. With this as a guiding light, that everything is directed and planned out by God, it gives us a mission. It charges each of us with a directive. That directive being that we are in fact messengers of God to be where we are. We're not here just because. We're here by godly intervention, by God's plan. And if we're a messenger of God, then let us use the biblical term, we're created in God's image. And if we're created in God's image, then we should attempt, at the very least, on either in our hearts, in our minds, in our speech, or even better, in our action, we should attempt to be just like God. If we're created in His form and we're His messenger, we're His representative to wherever we are, then let us be just like Him. Another story. Gee whiz, we'll run out of time. Another story. 70 years ago, my great uncle, whose name was Beryl, B-E-R-E-L, Beryl, lovely fellow. I never met him. Together with his wife, Hannah, were attempting an escape from post-World War II Ukraine. 70 years ago. And they got themselves somehow onto one of the last trains out. As it happens, during their trip, someone snitched on them. Someone else said they traveled on fake passports, as was the norm in those times if you were illegally leaving a country. They traveled on fake documents, and someone else snitched on my great uncle that he was not the name on his papers. In this entourage was my grandfather, my grandmother, my grandmother's sister, and her husband, Beryl. And Beryl was the only one who got busted. And so my great aunt says to her spouse, I'm coming with you. I'm not going to escape and leave you behind. And everybody else chimed in together and said, no way, you're coming with us. And so they all left, and my great uncle stayed behind 70 years ago. Last week, 70 years later, my second cousin went through a very similar harrowing experience. Yet again, the footsteps of man are directed by God. I can't explain it. I don't know why. I'm not here to say it's okay or anything like that. But I am here to remember and to remind myself and all of us that everything that happens to us throughout our lives, no matter where, no matter when, is directed by the Holy One. And all of you sitting here today are here in your positions by virtue of God's interest. God put you here. You might think that you ran successfully and you got elected. Yeah, but who elected you? Right? The people. And who elected and who got the people to go for this? It's all through God. And your position here, representing the people and representing God, is for you to take on, if I can suggest, to be in the image of God. In return for your being here, God has invested in you the energies that you need. God gives you everything that you need to make the right decisions, and the courage and the strength and the knowledge that you need to fulfill the task at hand. May God bless you to succeed in your efforts and blossom in your positions, to teach the ethics and morals to our people and to lead us in God's righteous ways. Amen. Okay, the prayer is coming, but in the meanwhile, let's wish a happy 80th birthday to Senator Walker's father. How awesome is that? Our God and God of our fathers, great, mighty, and revered God, we beseech you in your abundant mercy, restore the world unto its true basis, under the guidance of kings and rulers who shall reign with justice and righteousness, without discrimination between nation and nation, race and race. We beseech you, O merciful and gracious God, guide our president, who you have chosen leader of these United States, strengthen and encourage him and his honorable ministers and counselors of state and the honorable representatives of the citizens in both houses of Congress. Bless their efforts to save this land, the neighboring lands from war and destruction. And wheresoever they turn in the cause of humanity on behalf of this land and for the benefit of your people, send the angels of blessing and success to welcome them, and cause war and its calamities to be ended, and an era of peace and justice with its blessings to begin. Even in our days, amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Good job. This is Lieutenant Governor.
All right, we're going to come back to order here. We've got a very special guest that's up here holding court, literally. Justice John Ellington's with us here today, telling us all the old stories about being a reader up here. So thank you for joining us. Thanks for what you do for the state. No shortage of personality. Any unanimous consents? The chair sees none. Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? The chair recognizes the senator from the 3rd for a point of personal privilege.
I just want to recognize our friends from Waycross. They are the, can you hear me? Would you all stand, all of our Waycross group? Thank you very much.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 17th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, as I told you yesterday, today is Scout Day at the Capitol. I know a lot of y'all got to see some of your young scouts from your district this morning. We have, I think, over 400 people up here, 400 scouts visiting with us at the Capitol. I want to take a second before I recognize those who are still in the gallery to talk about a couple of the members of this body that have a background with scouting. And if I missed somebody, I'm sorry. These are what my notes showed. The senator from the 56th was a scout leader. The senator from the 43rd is very involved in scouting as a family with her family in Rockdale County. The senator from the 11th volunteers with Boy Scouts of America. Senator from the 52nd has an Eagle Scout son. He supported scouting throughout the years. Senator from the 18th on the executive board of directors for the Central Georgia Council and Boy Scouts of America. Senator from the 32nd has an Eagle Scout son. Her husband is a scoutmaster. Senator from the 33rd was a scout as a youth. He actually brought his shirt with us this morning to show everybody that he couldn't quite fit into anymore, I don't think, unless you got underneath your jacket now. And the senator from the 14th serves on the board for the First National Community Bank with Matt Hart, CEO of Northwest Georgia Council. I'm sure I missed some folks, but we all know how important scouting is for our young people. It helped mold so many of us to be the leaders that we are today. We're honored to get to have so many people visiting with us. So those of you who are still in the gallery, thank you so much for being here with us today. Welcome to the State Senate. If you'll please stand. And Mr. President, we can recognize them that are here with us.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd, former Scout leader and Rules Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to talk about the Rules Committee right now. We're at the end of crossover coming up soon, and I want to talk to our friends in the hall. Now, right currently, I am 497 texts behind. My phone is ringing off the hook for many reasons, the announcement mainly, but I just want to tell you, I don't know how you can get in touch with me except to talk to me personally, and that's okay. But to make sure you're for or against something and you need to tell me, please do. And ladies and gentlemen in this chamber, your bill is important as well. And please come and make sure I know that you want to move forward on yours too. But we're at crossover. It's going to be a busy next couple of session days, so just prepare yourself. But it's going to be great. It's going to be exciting. And we're turning Georgia some direction. I think good. Some people think not so good. But it's a great day to be here, and I'm glad to be your Rules Chairman. Thank you, Mr. President, for allowing me to be your Rules Chair. And see you at the end zone.
Have you picked your walk-up song today?
Yes. You may not get what you want by it.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know many people have already discussed this issue, and I think we are beginning to take some good action with Senate resolutions. And while here in the state of Georgia we can't directly impact what's happening over in the Ukraine, each one of us ought to have this in our hearts. A brutal and ruthless dictator, and let's call him what he is, Vladimir Putin, is murdering people. Civilians, women and children are dying every single day in Ukraine. And why? For no stated purpose other than falsehoods. He said that he was going to denazify the Ukraine, where their president is Jewish. That is the most absurd thing he could have said. It's been a series of lies. Even at the time of ceasefires, they have literally attacked and killed civilians. We've seen this movie before, folks. The United States of America has to be directly involved in this. We know what happens when dictators are not put into check. This cannot be another moment in history of Chamberlain walking off an airplane saying, we'll have peace in our time, only to have all of Europe and a good portion of the world in World War II. We have to do something to stand up for these people. It is freedom and liberty, the very basis of what we are as America. If we're going to be what Ronald Reagan said, as that shining city on the hill, then we have to participate when people are being oppressed and murdered. It's wrong. Both of my grandfathers fought in World War II. On May 8th, 1945, my grandfather, Fred Albers, was liberated from a German prison camp. He was a gunner in a B-17, Miss Lacey, that was shot down over the milkman missions, and he spent over a year in a German stalag. My other grandfather fought against Rommel's forces, the Desert Fox, in Africa, to liberate Africa and then into Italy. That was the greatest generation. We cannot be the generation that turned our backs on freedom-loving people no matter where they are. So while we can't do what we would like to do from the state of Georgia, each one of us can pick up the phone, we can send an email, we can text, we can do whatever is necessary from the White House to the halls of Congress and demand we protect liberty and freedom no matter where it's being threatened. Thank you. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th from her desk.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, want to recognize the Boy Scouts who came to my office this morning. If Mose James is still up there, please stand. And also, I was a mother of two scouts who went all the way through, Brian James and Carrie James. And I want to congratulate my two nephews who, in another state, have just earned their Eagle Scout. That's Collier Dickens and Colin Dickens, my sister's two sons. So is Mo still there? And so all the ones from South Fulton, Hateville, East Point College Park, Union City, Fairburn, Palmetto, Chattahoochee Hills, please stand, as well as Douglas County. And we recognize you now and give you thanks. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 18th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues, and good morning to all the scouts that are here. I want to thank Chairman Strickland and his leadership for having Scout Day at the Capitol. Thank you very much for that. We've got some Troop 51 folks from Monroe County. I don't know if they're in the gallery or not, but they may be out in the hallway. I had the chance to visit with them a little bit this morning. I'm going to be having lunch with them. I want to welcome them and all the scouts. I have the privilege of serving on the Central Georgia Council's Board of Directors, and it's a personal thing for me because I saw what scouting did for my son, Will. You guys know I have one son. Will, he went through Troop 19 and is an Eagle Scout, and I'm very proud of that for him. And it's one of those organizations today that still instills pride in America, great values, good family ethics, and it's just it's a great organization. So for all of you that are in Scouts, stay in Scouts. Keep going. You can all be Eagles. You just got to do the work. So with that, thank you very much. And one last thing, thank you to the Scoutmasters and the parents that make it possible for the Scouts to do what they do. Y'all really are the lifeblood of making the Scouting organization work. Thanks very much. Mr. President, I yield the will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 33rd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President, my fellow senators, colleagues, friends, and the rest of y'all. I just wanted to show my Boy Scout uniform from when I was 10 years old. I woke up this morning, I tried to put it on and didn't quite fit. But Boy Scouts made a difference. It taught me not only how to be a leader, but to think about how my actions affect other people. And that followed me through the United States Air Force and all the way today to the Georgia Senate. Thank you so much to the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and everybody up there for your service, and I yield well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator. We're glad you didn't try that on today. Chair recognizes the senator from the 13th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to tell you guys, I have a congressional district that I like to tell you about the size of my district. I got 9 counties, and I picked up 4 more, so technically right now I'm at 13 counties. And I'd like to say that I've met my scout people this morning, and it was just amazing to see the beautiful smiles on these young people without masks on. They were here, they were back in the Capitol, they were doing, what they do best, learning about what's going on in the world. But I want to give a shout out to the Scoutmasters. That's one person we've forgotten. These people give their time constantly to help these young people. And all you Scoutmasters up there, stand up. I don't know who you are. I know you got Scoutmasters everywhere. I got them from all my districts. There's Chris County Show. Thank you, men and girls and boys, men and women, for what you do. Thank you very much. I'm going to give you a hand. Mr. President, you will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 31st for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do want to, as my fellow colleagues, also recognize our scouts from District 31, the Scoutmasters and the scouts that have come from Dallas, Georgia, and also North Paulding County, where I live. Awesome to see them here in this building and representing the values that they represent in our community. Also want to give a shout out to our Paulding County Public Safety Appreciation board members and leaders who raise money, they advocate and fight for our public safety and first responders in Paulding County, Georgia, for the hard work and dedication that they do for the citizens in our community. They've helped a lot of families over the last many years, and saying as a former board member with one of my colleagues from the House, just very proud of the work that they're doing every single day. Not for our EMS or 911, our police officers, sheriff's department, fire department every day. So God bless you, and thank you, and yield well, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 20th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is my 7th session, and I still don't know which button to push to come to the well, so I appreciate you helping me with that. As the Rabbi already alluded to, today is my father's 80th birthday, Larry Walker, Jr. He's been a wonderful father. He's been married to the best mom in the world, Janice, for 57 years. He's got 4 children, 9 grandchildren, 1 great-grandchild, and 2 more on the way. He's been practicing law in Perry for 57 years. He's going to retire, he says, in June. We'll see if that really happens. He served in the House with many of you in this body. He served in the House for 32 years. 16 of those years he was Majority Leader under Speaker Tom Murphy. I'm so proud of my father. He later, after he left the House of Representatives, he served on the Georgia DOT board and then on the Board of Regents. He's doing very well, still very healthy and active in the community, and he's been a good source of sage wisdom for me. So happy birthday, Dad.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to welcome all of the Boy Scouts here to the Capitol from District 29, those that work hard in Columbus and in Troup County, Harris County, and Meriwether County. I was glad my mother signed me up. I was a Cub Scout. I was a Weeblo, got into the Boy Scouts, but because of my sunny disposition, I never was an Eagle Scout. But I do know this, as a law enforcement officer, if you want your child, your young man, your young woman, to stay out of trouble and to be a productive part of their community, please today get your child involved in scouting. It's beautiful and it's safe. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 16th to introduce to us our Doctor of the Day.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our Doctor of the Day is Dr. Grisha Renee Collins, MD. She is also an obstetrician and a gynecologist with Community Health Care System, a federally funded health care network in Central Georgia. She graduated with a Bachelor's of Arts degree from the University of Virginia, a Master's in Public Health degree from the University of Alabama in Birmingham School of Public Health, a Doctor of Medicine from Morehouse School of Medicine, and a graduate medical training in OMS and OB/GYN residency program. She brings a wealth of knowledge in women's health care, and I loved her mission statement as she said, "You may not be able to change the world, but you can change the world of everyone of whom you are interested." And I thought that was a very good statement, but thank her for her service today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. All right, we're going to move on. You've got a consent calendar of privileged resolutions before you. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Is there objection or adoption of the resolutions on the consent calendar? The chair hears none, and the resolutions on the consent calendar are adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw and commit? Chair recognizes the senator from the 20th who's figured out the right button to push.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that Senate Bill 481 be withdrawn from the general calendar and be committed to the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 481?
Senate Bill 481, a bill by Senator Jackson of the 41st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 23 of Title II of the OCGA related to the Georgia Hemp Farming Act, so as to allow persons convicted of any misdemeanor or a felony not related to a state or federally controlled substance within 10 years of the application date to grow industrial hemp and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Mullis of the 53rd District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator, have you talked to both chairmen? Senator has talked. The senator has asked for unanimous consent that Senate Bill 481 be withdrawn from the general calendar, be committed to the Committee on Ag and Consumer Affairs. Is there objection? There is objection. Would the senator like to speak to his chair? Recognizes the senator from the 20th to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 481 was brought to us in the Ag Committee by Senator of the 41st, and it was a very straightforward measure to the current law basically prohibits citizens that have had a misdemeanor involving sale or trafficking of controlled substance from being able to get a permit from the Department of Agriculture to grow hemp. And the committee passed out the amendment to that, allowing making that where they had to have a felony, so a misdemeanor would not preclude them from being able to get a permit. And that's all the committee passed out. There was a substitution made in rules, and I was under the impression, it's partly my fault, but I was under the impression that it was just related to fees, permit fees. It goes a lot further than that, and there's some language in there that I think we need to really vet out and understand the implications of, and I think there's some errors in it, and so I think the committee needs to have an opportunity to perfect the bill before we bring it back to the floor. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd to your left with a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, I remember that this change that you're speaking of was made in the Rules Committee as a standing committee.
That's correct.
Couldn't we take up that issue in the Rules Committee as a standing committee again instead of recommitting it and therefore killing the bill and precluding further action on it this session?
I think the changes are significant enough and complicated enough that we need to send it back to the Ag Committee so we can thoroughly vet it. I had not seen the committee sub before it was in the Rules General Committee, and it needs a lot of work.
Well, but if you'll further yield, my question is, why can't that language be stripped back out in the Standing Rules Committee to return it to the language that your committee unanimously approved?
I'd prefer it just go back to the Ag Committee.
Thanks.
Any other questions? I'll be happy to yield.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 41st to your right with a question.
Yes.
Senator, do you yield?
Yes.
Isn't it true that you voted to pass in rules in the Standing Rules Committee on this bill?
I did, not understanding everything that was in the bill. So again, that's on me, and it slipped by me.
Do you continue to yield?
No, I yield the well. I ask for your favorable consideration and a yes vote, please. Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak? Chair recognizes the senator from the 41st. For what purpose does the senator from the 23rd rise? He waves. Chair recognizes the senator from the 41st to speak to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to encourage you and urge you all to not pass this motion. As the senator from the 42nd mentioned, there are other ways for us to restore this bill back to its original form, a form that the entire Ag Committee did vote on and pass out. I think that it is not helpful to our hemp industry to destroy the bill and to not let it pass in any form at this point. And so I urge you to vote no on this motion and allow us to edit it properly back in the Rules Standing Committee. I'll stand for questions.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 23rd to your right with a question.
Will the senator yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true, Senator, that it was not a unanimous vote by the Ag Committee?
That is correct.
It was not unanimous. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you very much. No further questions.
You have no more questions.
Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair sees none. Senator from the 20th has asked for unanimous consent that Senate Bill 481 be withdrawn from the general calendar and be committed to the Committee on Ag and Consumer Affairs. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. For what purpose does the senator from the 20th rise?
Mr. President, isn't parliamentary inquiry?
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true, if you want to respect the committee process and the role that chairman of committee have, and both chairmen agreed to have this recommitted back to Ag, that you'd vote green on this?
I'm certain the senator knows of what he speaks. On the motion, the yeas are 28, the nays are 20, and the motion has passed with a majority of a quorum, and Senate Bill 481 has been moved from the general calendar to the Ag and Consumer Affairs Committee. You have a consent calendar of local bills before you. Mr. Secretary, are there any objections filed to any bills on the local consent calendar?
Mr. President, there are no objections filed.
Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the Committee on State and Local Government, which is favorable to the passage of the bills on the local calendar? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. The questions on the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar, the yeas are 50, the nays are 0, and the bills having received the requisite constitutional majority are therefore passed. All right, we're going to move on to the rules calendar. Keep up this good momentum. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 562?
Senate Bill 562, a bill by Senator Mullis of the 53rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 3 of Chapter 5 of Title 50 of the OCGA relating to general authority, duties, and procedure of the Department of Administrative Services so as to prohibit companies owned or operated by Russia to bid on or submit a proposal for a state contract and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Government Oversight recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Harbin of the 16th District Chairman. Mr. President, Senator Harbin of the 16th and others offer the following amendment to Senate Bill 562 by inserting "or Belarus" after Russia on line 3, by placing lines 19 through 21 with the following: 2, Government of Belarus means the Republic of Belarus. 3, Government of Russia means the Russian Federation. 4, Scrutinized company means any company owned or operated by the government of Russia or the government of Belarus. That completes the order, Mr. President.
The rules chairman must know somebody in rules. He's back to the well. The chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd to present Senate Bill 562 and Amendment Number 1. Are you comfortable presenting the amendment?
No, he won't.
Who is he? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, it brings me great pleasure of being up here before you with such an outstanding message that we're sending. I want to thank my good friend Ed the senator from the 15th, for his inspiration, just because he's a good-looking guy, and I've served with him a long time. But looky here. We have had a senator from the 56th talked about it earlier. The senator from the 55th has passed a resolution in committee about Russia. This bill prohibits a state agency from contracting with any company owned or operated by the government of Russia. As you know, all the horrendous activities going on over there and killing innocent women and children and men, this has to stop. If we can send a message, this is one of them that we need to send. I want to thank my colleagues for their support of Senator from the 55th resolution the other day in committee, and of course thank you again, 56, for your statement. But this also requires that submitting a bid for a contract with the state agency has to be certified to make sure that it is not a company owned by the Russian government. Also, there are penalties if they falsified or just dang lie, which I would figure they would. Of course, they'll be kicked out and with a $250,000 fine for the first time. Mr. President, there's a amendment that I know that the senator from the 16th would like to talk about. I do appreciate that amendment and support it, but I'll be glad to answer any questions by any of my world-famous colleagues.
Chair recognizes the majority whip to your left.
Normally to your right, but over here today. Senator,
yes, sir.
Will you yield?
I will yield for you.
Isn't it true that you live in northwest Georgia on Lookout Mountain?
I live at the foot of Lookout Mountain, nearly in the world-famous county of Chattooga, but I am in Walker currently.
What's the elevation of Lookout Mountain?
It is, in many places, high point is 2,700 feet.
Is it further true that you can see Russia from the top of Lookout Mountain?
If I squint real hard.
If you were taller.
Thank you, Senator.
If I was taller. Thank you, Mr. President, for bringing that up, too.
You have chair recognizes the minority leader to your left.
Thank you, Mr. President. Chairman Yeo.
Yes, ma'am. I'd be honored.
Senator, is it not true that my resolution will further condemn Russia for their terrible acts against Ukraine?
Yes, ma'am. And if I wasn't restricted by language controls here, I would give you a stronger yes.
Well, is it not true, Senator, that I would join you in that strong language?
And thank you. I don't know if I've ever heard it from you. You're such a lady, but I know y'all have heard it from me. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
You have no more questions.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate your support. Let's send this message, and I welcome Senator from the 16th. I yield away.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 16th to speak to amendment number 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. According to Time magazine and the Financial Times on February the 24th, the nation of Belarus allowed its territory to be used by the Russian army in the staging grounds and launching pads for the unprovoked attack on the Ukraine. Since that time, Belarus has welcomed the Russian anti-aircraft installments in its territory. Some of the weapons have been used to take out the Ukrainian planes and helicopters. We cannot wait to go unanswered, for this to go unanswered. While we cannot dictate foreign policy in this chamber, we do have the authority to ensure that taxpayer dollars in this state do not go to fund this Belarusian oligarchy. Amendment 440162 would ban the state of Georgia from doing business with the nation of Belarus or any company owned or operated by the dictatorial government of Belarus. We are in good company with this amendment. The U.S. Treasury has sanctioned the Belarusian Ministries of Finance and Development Bank of Belarus. Additionally, the European Union has sanctioned Belarus Central Bank as well. Senators, I have traveled to Belarus. I have friends there in this nation who are from Belarus as well. This oligarchy decision to support the invasion of the Ukraine breaks my heart to a freedom-loving people that are there. I ask your favorable considerations for the bill and for this amendment, and that we would send a message to their dictator, Alexander Lukashenko, a message that we will not sit idly by and watch what he does. Mr. President, I'm happy to answer any question if there are any.
You don't appear to have any questions.
Thank you, sir.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure or the amendment? The chair sees none. We'll take up the amendment number 1. Senator from the 16th has offered amendment number 1. Is there objection to adoption of amendment number 1? The chair hears none, and amendment number 1 is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill as amended. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 53, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed as amended. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 333?
Senate Bill 333, a bill by Senators Albers of the 56 and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1A of Article 7 of Chapter 3 of Title 20 of the RCGA relating to non-public post-secondary educational institutions, so as to remove provisions related to agents and agents permits, to repeal definitions of such terms, to provide for new exemptions from applicability of the part relating to certain programs for industry-specific certifications and certain short courses, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Higher Education recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Tippins of the 37th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr.
We have a substitute.
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Higher Education offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 333, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1A of Article 7 of Chapter 3 of Title 20 of the RCGA relating to non-public post-secondary educational institutions, so as to remove provisions related to agents and agents permits, to repeal definitions of such terms, to provide for new exemptions from applicability of the part relating to certain programs for industry-specific certifications and certain short courses, to provide for and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 56 to present Senate Bill 333.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I want to give you a quick background. During the summer, I had a constituent come to me who has a company, a small business, that tutors folks in order to take the project management exams. Some of in this room might even have a PMP. His business helped people to prepare for that exam. However, they did not offer the exam nor certify people. What he found after he was brought on the radar of a group called the Georgia Non-Public Post-Secondary Education Commission is he fell under an extraordinary amount of governance. Like all of us do each and every day when we get messages or phone calls from our constituents, we went about solving the problem. The first thing I want to thank is Governor Brian Kemp and his staff for looking at this issue immediately, and then specifically Director Kirk Shook, who agreed that when the commission was first formed many decades ago, the original legislation really didn't fit what the intention was for the time we live in today. So this bill is actually a reduction of government, increased transparency and accountability, and supporting our small businesses, and ultimately supporting our students. I want to take a moment specifically and thank the senator from the 37th, the distinguished chairman of the Higher Education Committee, who really helped us perfect this bill throughout the committee process as well. The overview of this bill is as follows. The Georgia Non-Public Post-Secondary Education Commission will limit what it governs to only those schools that provide degrees or certificates. Secondarily, if you continue through that, it's going to remove some of the language and regulations to make sure we're only going after the folks that need to be governed and not those that are simply offering a tutoring type of service. It also removes the word agent, because someone is trying to get you to go to some type of a school. It's not the agent that is the issue that we're concerned about, it's the actual school itself. Many of us remember years ago when Argosy University closed down and put those students in a very difficult place. It was this very group that came forward to help out those students, and that is very important. Last, it reduces the way that bond works for only those companies that are in financial distress, and we are increasing the amount of money that they're going to hold in trust in order to make sure that limit goes up to as much as $10 million should the fund be needed. This is a great good government bill. Again, I want to thank all the parties who came together. This is how we do good business around here. A constituent calls, we all work together, we come up to a good solution, and we pass good, meaningful legislation. If there are no questions, I would yield the will.
You have no questions.
Thank you.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 333? The chair sees none. The questions on the adoption of the committee Chair recognizes the senator from the 27th.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 24th.
Without objection, the senator from the 24th is excused. The questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 510?
Senate Bill 510, a bill by Senators Ginn of the 47th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 40-5-24 of the OCGA relating to instruction permits, graduated licensing and related restrictions, and temporary licenses relative to the operation of a motor vehicle, so as to remove the restriction upon the operation of motor vehicles by Class D license holders with certain passengers in the vehicle, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers of the 56th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
For what purpose does the senator from the 47th rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate table Senate Bill 510 for later in the calendar.
Senator from the 47th has asked for unanimous consent for Senate Bill 510 to be placed on the table. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it's placed on the table. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 371?
Senate Bill 371, a bill by Senators Walker of the 20th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 4 of Chapter 9 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to fraud and related practices so as to authorize for-profit credit repair services and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs offered the following substitute to Senate Bill 371, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 4 of Chapter 9 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to fraud and related practices and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate Bill 371 be put on the table.
The Majority Leader has moved that Senate Bill 371 be placed on the table. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and Senate Bill 371 is placed on the table. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 203?
Senate Bill 203, a bill by Senators Grisha the 51st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 4 of Article 1 of Chapter 8 of Title 40 of the OCGA relating to horns, exhaust systems, mirrors, windshields, tires, safety belts, and energy absorption systems of motor vehicles, so as to allow for the use of mounts on windshields of motor vehicles for the support of wireless telecommunication devices and other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Transportation recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Ginn of the 47th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Transportation offer the following substitute to Senate Bill 203, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 40-6-241 related to distracted driving, restrictions on operation of wireless telecommunications devices and standalone electronic devices, and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 47th to speak to Senate Bill 203.
Good morning. Some people actually say I have a drinking problem, but I don't think I do. So I just drink a lot. If I could, I'd ask the members of our body to join their seats. Said I want to do a little experiment this morning before we talk about this legislation. You know, I'm honored to wear the badge of Chairman of Transportation. We've had some great ones like the senator from the 21st, the senator from the 51st, senator from the 53rd, but we've had a lot of great transportation chairs in years past. And our job as transportation chair is to move people and freight across the state of Georgia. Now, I'm handicapped. Y'all all know that because I'm an engineer, and we think a little bit differently as an engineer than you do most of us. And I'm going to give you some thoughts on something that is not intuitive to what you normally think about. We passed a safety bill in 2018 as a hand-free driving bill. So that's one of those things that we don't want anybody out there having a wreck and killing themselves or killing our loved ones. So for me, I supported that bill when it passed. But you know, one of the things that happened when we passed that bill was we unfortunately, there's an unintended consequence of it. So if I could get all my colleagues to sit in their seats for a second, I'm going to tell you what's happened when we passed that bill. Everybody in here knows it's illegal to hold your phone while you're driving an automobile or even while you're sitting at a complete and full stop at a traffic light. So if you would, push your chair back away from your desk just a little bit. And hold your phone or hold your hand down about your knee. And if you would, do me a favor and stare, Mr. Leader, at your phone held down by your knee. If you would, please do that for me now. And just look at your phone. And if anybody in here can be staring at their phone down by their knee and still see me standing up here, you're an amazing human and you've done something no other human has been able to do. Because what's happening right now is everybody in the state of Georgia knows they can't be holding their phone sitting at a traffic light. So with that said, we've made criminals out of our folks. But the worst part about that, thank you, Mr. President. The worst part about that is when you're looking down at your phone, you can't see out the windshield. When you can't see out the windshield, you have no situational awareness. Your peripheral vision, if you're up here and you could hold your phone, if you would, hold your hand up in front of you. Can you still see me when you're looking at your hand? When you hold your phone right in front of me? For me, the point being, if I can get people's phones up there to eye level, get them up to the dashboard so that you still have peripheral vision, you can see a lot more about what's going on in your area, your immediate area. The thought being, I sat here and I watched traffic light after traffic light all over the state. And we have two problems with the hands-free law. First off, when I start looking at enforcement, we need to go after, with vehement vigor, to go after those people that are moving and holding on to their phone. We don't want those people out there driving and being distracted. But if you're at a complete and full stop, your car is not endangering anybody. You can't run over anybody when you're sitting still. So what I want to ask my colleagues to do is to think about this bill with an open mind, because if anybody can explain to me how at a complete and full stop you can ever injure anybody, I'd like to know. That's defying physics. I'd really much rather our law enforcement community focus on going after those people that are moving and distracted, whether that be with their phone, whether it's impaired with drugs, whether they're, some of the cars, we heard testimony in one of the committees how difficult it was for these new cars. They're like computers, and programming the radio, changing your heat and air, it's getting more and more complicated. For me, I want to try to make sure that when you're sitting perfectly still, you can handle your phone. You can have it mounted on the dash, mounted on the windshield, and you can touch your phone. Now I'm going to pick on my colleague, the senator from the 1st. Everybody in here realizes he's a medical doctor. I'll use him as an example. He leaves the hospital and he's in a conversation with his wife on the way home. When you're in a conversation with your spouse, I hope you're not going to hang up just because there's call waiting going on, or better yet, you do away with call waiting. The hospital needs him to return to see a patient. They send him a text message to come back to the hospital. This would allow him at a stop sign or at a red light, or even pull over on the shoulder of the road, to look at his phone and see that text message while he's still having the conversation with his wife. For me, there's a safe way to do it. If you're moving and you're handling your phone, you're a danger to yourself and everybody else on the road. What I want to try to make sure is that we focus on what's endangering the public, and that is just simply moving, whether you're moving 1 mile an hour or 60. I've had people that have told me where they were looking at their phone, somebody honks the horn, they hit the gas, they run into the vehicle in front of them. That's unexcusable. If they can see, the peripheral vision will help and save the traffic accident, will save the delay. All of y'all, I think everybody in here can testify that they've been waiting at a traffic light where somebody was looking at their phone and delayed the traffic movement. Well, as the chairman of transportation, we try to move people and freight in the state of Georgia. This is a simple bill. It's not one that was brought to me by anybody else. It was one that I looked at and I said, this is one that doesn't cost the public any money to do. It's not going to endanger the public, and I'll ask for your favorable consideration on this bill. Now, I brought up two Powerades. I brought up a red one and a blue one. This bill is nonpartisan. It is one that you can drink the Kool-Aid from red or blue. It doesn't make any difference. It's one of those that, for me, it all tastes good. We heard testimony in one of the committees about this bill being, well, there's not a group that's for it. And I'll tell you, this bill, people either love it or they hate it. I've had a lot of people that have reached out to me, sent me emails, that said, oh man, your cheese has slid off the cracker, you're crazy. If they'd send me a phone number, I'd send them back an email and I'd say, hey, send me your phone number. I reached out to a lot of those folks. A lot of them former law enforcement folks that told me, this bill is just dangerous. And I said, guys, look, if you would, sit up in your chair and do just what I've asked y'all to do with me. After a few minutes on the phone with most of them, they said, I begin to understand it now. If you're sitting still, you can't run over anybody. If you're have your phone up here at eye level, you're much more aware of what's going on around you. The last thing I want to do is see somebody get in a wreck and hurt themselves or hurt somebody else. I know that in Georgia, we have the national championship. We have the world championship in baseball. We've got a lot of talent in the state of Georgia. Now, I know some of y'all have probably driven in some other states surrounding us, like maybe Florida, and I won't say there's an aged population more so in Florida. South Carolina, I'm still worrying about those folks over in South Carolina, and Tennessee. In all three of those adjoining states to us, they allow you to manipulate your phone at a traffic light. What I'm asking for us to do is to revisit the hands-free law to make sure that what we do is not make criminals out of law-abiding citizens and make it safer to move the traffic and less distraction of driving. One of the things that I see happen a lot of times, people will get a text, their phone will ding, and so what do they, first thing they do while they're driving, they'll pick up their phone. That's the person I want going to jail. I want that person locked up and prosecuted. If they'd pull over on the side of the road, if they'd stop at a stop sign or they'd stop at a traffic light, while their phone's in a cradle, they should be able to look at that message, be able to hit that button and touch it. And for me, that's what this bill does. It's pretty simple. We want law enforcement to focus on those people that are endangering others or endangering themselves. So for me, I'll ask for your favorable consideration. I believe there may be some other people that want to speak on this bill. Said one of the things that in committee, I heard one of our chairmen say something along the lines of, there's no group that's for this bill. And for me, everybody in here doesn't work for all the groups out in the hall or all the groups all over the state. We work for the citizens of Georgia. This is one that I want to make sure that you understand what I'm trying to do and try to make sure that as we move this forward, it's making things safer and moving transportation through the state. With that, Mr. President, I'll either take questions or yield the well.
Which one do you want?
Whichever one you want to do. I'll take questions.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 27th with a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Chairman yield.
Yes, sir.
I just want to clarify what your bill actually does. Is it true that what you're trying to change is to allow people to use their cell phones while at a complete stop at a traffic control device or on the side of the road, as long as that phone is mounted to the windshield or the dash? I think that when I first heard of this bill, I thought that you were trying to still allow usage in the hand, but the usage you're allowing in this bill, is it not true, is only if the phone is mounted to the dash or the windshield?
Yes, sir. And I will tell you this, because when I introduced the bill, I didn't put any particulars in it. But I want to thank the senator from the 41st. I'll be honest with you, she told me, she said, they could do this at stop-and-go traffic. And I said, you're right. I don't want to see that happen. So we moved it to traffic control devices, which would be a stop sign or a traffic light or to the shoulder of the road. The other thing and I will tell you, the senator from the 1st was the one that said, we want to make sure it gets up to eye level. So let's make sure that it's mounted in a device that's going to hold that phone up there where you have that peripheral vision. So thank you, Senator, for your question.
Do you further yield?
Yes, sir.
I know there's some question, and keep clarify for us, at least your opinion as far as the law. Is that currently allowed, the mounting of the windshield? Because I know that one of my colleagues believes that this is already in current law, and I'd just like that clarified for myself.
Yes, sir. Last year, the senator from the 51st introduced Senate Bill 203. And that legislation that he introduced was included into a House bill that passed through legislation is in current law now. So that left Senate Bill 203 as an open vehicle to carry this legislation. And so right now you can have your phone mounted to your windshield or to the dash. So that is a current law, and that's one of the reasons why this bill, Senate Bill 203, was open for me to substitute the language from Senate Bill 356 into this bill.
Do you further yield?
Yes, sir.
So just to clarify, under current law, you can mount it, but you cannot manipulate it, I believe was the words used. Is that correct?
That's correct. You cannot be looking at text or something on your phone when it's mounted on your dash, even at a complete stop. We don't want you doing it and being distracted, but currently you can't do it unless you're legally parked or out of your vehicle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th with a question. To your right.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the senator yield?
Yes, sir, for the good doctor.
Thank you, Senator. If we go back to our original hands-free law, the first offenders can get off with a, basically if you show that you've corrected the situation, whether it's an app or a dash-mounted device to hold your phone, you can show that to the judge and get off. Is that not true?
Yeah, what actually is you sign a sworn affidavit that that's your first offense, and you have to have a Bluetooth or hands-free device and when you sign that affidavit, the first violation is there's no penalty.
Okay, and walk me through the next level of penalty. Is it not true that is it a $25 fine?
I believe the fine can be up to $150.
Could be up to $150, and so
I'm not sure how the courts, are doing that. I know I've seen different numbers around. It seemed like the most prevalent one is about $75.
Okay, and so with those penalties in place, with first offense being able to get off scot-free, and the average fine, as you just stated, being $75. Would you consider that as going after these moving violators, as you so eloquently stated, with vehement vigor?
Well, for me, the problem is that it's easier to hit a sitting still target than it is a moving target. And so unfortunately, our police have to enforce whatever law's out there. And so a lot of times they're going after people that are sitting still because they're easy to catch. Hey, you picked up your phone at a traffic light. You broke the law. And for me, they have to enforce all the laws. If they would focus on those that are moving, that are endangering themselves and the other motorists, that's the ones that I really want them to go after.
Would you further yield?
Yes, sir.
So does vehement mean moving?
Vehement means with vigor. I like a snake bite. If you look at what's going on, I want them going after those folks that are moving and endangering themselves and the public.
Thank you for that clarification.
You have no more questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
You left your Gatorade.
Left one. Thanks.
Bipartisan. Chair recognizes the senator from the 1st to speak to his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me first of all say that I support this, and it was through the Transportation Committee that I required it to be put into the vent or attached to the windshield. It was also pointed out to me by the senator from the 56 that maybe the or on line 24 would allow that to be not held in your hand. I've been informed by legal counsel that upon interpretation that those are two different devices, so you do not need the and in there. It is correct with the or. So I'm up here to say that I am withdrawing the amendment and be happy to answer any questions.
You don't appear to have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. President.
For what purpose does the senator from the 17th rise?
I ask unanimous consent that we excuse the senator from the 16th for business outside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 16th is excused. Mr. Secretary, can you please read amendment number 1?
Mr. President, Senators Watson of the 1st and others offer the following amendment number 1 to amend Senate Bill 203 by striking or at the end of line 24 and inserting in lieu thereof and. That completes the order, Mr. President.
The senator from the 1st has asked for unanimous consent to withdraw amendment number 1. Is there objection? There's no objection, and amendment number 1 is withdrawn. The chair recognizes the senator from the 29th to speak to the measure.
I'm here to agree with my friend, the senator from the 47th, that this is bipartisan, and I look forward to voting with Republicans and Democrats against this measure. And I do appreciate him coming up here and telling those in law enforcement where they need to focus their attention when they're out on the roads and highways. Back in 2021, a House representative, Representative Barr, asked me to carry House Bill 165 when it came across. I read House Bill 165 and realized that it allowed windshield mounted devices to be used in vehicles so that drivers throughout Georgia could look up and see their phone as they travel around the state, so they don't have to reach down. And please forgive me, there will be no Powerade demonstration on how to see their phone when they drive. The primary users of telephones in vehicles today, cell phones in vehicles today, are young people. And I'm here to tell you, they have a hard time driving without a telephone in the car. And for us to confuse them and change the rules in the middle of the game while they're trying to learn to drive is insanity. 16.7% of fatal large truck crashes are involved when people in passenger vehicles rear-end large trucks. 1/3 of all crashes in the United States are rear-end collisions. I drive a large, obnoxious F-150 Ford pickup truck, and I have a cell phone. And I have a device in my truck that fits in my cup holder and holds my cell phone up, so if I'm sitting at a light, I can glance over and see what I need to see. I have my podcast chosen when I drive. I have my air conditioner adjusted when I get in my vehicle, and I travel. Citizens sitting at red lights normally look at one thing. That is not the vehicle in front of them. It is that technology designed by engineers that hangs up above and goes from green to amber to red. They're looking at the light. When the light turns green, they go. And when the vehicle in front of them doesn't go, they strike that vehicle. And the person in that vehicle that did not move many times is injured. So what we need to focus on is the vehicles on the road, and when we are at a traffic signal, focus on the traffic signal. Do not worry about your phone. My phone is in my truck, my phone is plugged in, I can see my phone. If somebody texts me, I can see that somebody texts me. And when my wife texts me or calls me and I do not respond, my wife knows I'm driving. She understands that. I do care about my colleague. This is terrible legislation. This is unnecessary legislation. This is dangerous legislation. And I promise you, the men and women that go through GIPSTIC, that go through regional police academies, that go through EVOC training, they are well aware where their attention needs to be on the roads. And many times they do stop people who are manipulating their phones while traveling down the road. So listen, let's get focused back to what's supposed to be done inside of a motor vehicle. Motor vehicles are transportation. And multitasking is a myth. We stop one thing to do something else. It may be a fraction of a second pause, but we cannot simultaneously do two things. So when someone is messing with their phone at a traffic device, they are not paying attention to the danger that is around them. So please, friends, colleagues, uncles, aunts, mothers, fathers, and colleagues, please, with all due respect, let's make our friend well aware that this is legislation that is not needed, unnecessary, and dangerous. If I do not have any questions, Mr. Chair, I yield the well.
You have no questions.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to begin by thanking and commending for his great professionalism my colleague and my friend, the senator from the 47th. We have served together for quite some time. And while we agree on most issues, unfortunately, we just don't agree on this issue. And let me tell you specifically why we do not want to advance this legislation. First thing is this bill first came to the Public Safety Committee as it should have, because it deals with driver services, law enforcement, and public safety. What do I do as your chairman of public safety? What every other committee chair does. We bring in the subject matter experts that are impacted by any piece of legislation. We are really fortunate to have a wonderful Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police, Sheriff's Organization, Fraternal Order of Police, Firefighters, Fire Chiefs Association, Emergency Medical Services, Governor's Office of Highway Safety, AAA, our insurance companies and their lobby, as well as our lawyers. During the testimony on the bill that came to public safety, almost all of them came to testify, and every single one of them were opposed to it. Is that important? Of course it is. These are the very people, our first responders, whom we trust. And we have to rely on their wisdom and guidance during debates such as these. And again, I appreciate the motive here, but what is our goal here to serve in the Georgia State Senate, if not to keep people safe? Several years ago, all of us will probably remember the 5 young nursing students who lost their lives on Interstate 16. Some of us had those families in our district and had to talk to some of their families. Some of their families came down to testify just a few years ago when we passed the hands-free driving law to begin with in this state. Now, to think that if you are at a stop sign or a stoplight, the danger somehow goes away, it certainly does not. I want you to think about this for one moment. When you're at a stoplight and a stop sign, you're there for a purpose. Because either there's a crosswalk in front of you or there is traffic coming from the other way. So take your eyes off of the road, look down at your device. It takes your eyes anywhere from 5 to 25 seconds to readjust to what's in front of you. And what did you just do? What person did you run over? What car did you run into? What group of 9 cars behind you were honking your horn because you weren't paying attention to what you're supposed to be doing, which is driving the car? Distracted driving causes people their lives every single year, and it happens in Georgia. This is not the right solution. When we talked about this bill several years ago, I brought up my girlfriend. Her name is Siri. And she will read my email to me. She will read my text message to me. She will map something out of where I need to go. She will tell me what my calendar is. She'll play music, she'll play podcasts, and guess what? I don't even have to look at her. All I have to do is talk. That technology is on every single mobile device that you are using today. Every one. Doesn't matter what platform or what service provider. So there's an old adage, a solution in search of a problem. If you vote yes for this bill, sometime in the future, someone's going to get hurt or maybe lose their life. So I would certainly hope you vote no. Thank you. I yield the will.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? The chair sees none. The chair recognizes the senator from the 47th to close debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I still may have a drinking problem. You know, many of y'all know that I've been a Rotarian for a long time. Matter of fact, I've been in Rotary since 1990. And one of my favorite programs in Rotary is our Rotary student program, where we bring international students over to the States to study and learn our customs and our ways. In 1996, I had a great student from Germany. This kid came over. He got into one of our cars. First time he got into one of our cars, and he looked, and he was totally shocked. He said, "What in the world is this?" And I told him, I said, "Well, that's a drink holder. We like to sometimes have a drink," said while we're moving down the highway. He says, "Oh, no, we can't do that in Germany. That's against the rules and regulation. We only are focused on driving." Well, if you show me a car that's made today that doesn't have a drink holder in it, I'll show you one that doesn't get sold. Said you know, for me, when I look, and I have no special talents. I'm not I can't fly. Unlike my friend from the 29th or my friend from the 56, I can read. And for me, if you would, you know, this green sheet that's in your book, so if you'll look at line 23, while in a motor vehicle which is at a full and complete stop. When your vehicle is sitting perfectly still, you can't run over a soul. Where I want our law enforcement folks to do is those people that are putting people in danger, and those are the ones that are moving. There's 10.5, 11 million Georgians here. Said we all work for those Georgians. I want to try to make sure that what we're doing is helping to move traffic, move people and freight in the state of Georgia, and do it safely. You know, and I'll butcher it if I try to say it, so I won't say it, but I will acknowledge it. Teddy Roosevelt has a good quote about a fighter in the ring. Well, I intentionally asked for my caucus to not whip this bill. I didn't ask for the minority caucus to whip this bill. I put it to my colleagues in the Senate who represent the 11 million Georgians to decide which is the right answer. Now, I can tell you, if you look at right up there, line 18, and there's exemptions in the law for what you can do. You know, I fall into one of those exemptions in line 18 as a utility worker. My day job, I run a development authority. We run the water and sewer system in the county. I have no greater talents than any other driver on the road, but yet this law would not apply to me had I been going to an emergency. For me, I can't fly, I can't do anything but try to help our citizens to be safer and move. And I'll ask for your favorable consideration to move people in Georgia and do it safely. With that, Mr. President, I'll have a drink and yield the well.
The senator has yielded the well and closed the debate. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 14, the nays are 35. This bill, having failed to receive the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore lost. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption as Senate Bill 203? Senate Resolution 565.
Senate Resolution 565, a resolution by Senators Anna Vitarte of the 31st and others, a resolution designating the Northwest Georgia Logistics Corridor as an official logistics growth corridor in Georgia and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Transportation recommend that this resolution do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Ginter, the 47th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Transportation offered the following substitute to Senate Resolution 565, a resolution designating the Northwest Georgia Logistics Corridor as an official logistics growth corridor in Georgia and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
For what purpose does the pro tem rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President.
State your inquiry.
Is it too late to ask for reconsideration on Senate Bill 510?
The secretary informs me it is not too late.
Well, if anybody cares to do that, go right ahead.
State your inquiry. Chair recognizes the senator from the 31st to present Senate Resolution 565. Senator, hold on one moment. Hold on. We'll come back to order. We have a measure on the floor for debate. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President, and hopefully there will be no debate. This resolution basically would designate the Northwest Georgia Logistics Corridor as an official logistics corridor in Georgia. I want to thank the senators from the 30th, the 28th, the 52nd, the 53rd for their support and work on this resolution to help us grow our economies in West Northwest Georgia by focusing on supply and logistics chain companies as a region and as a community. The communities that will be impacted by this resolution in a positive manner will be Carroll County, Chattooga County, Douglas County, Floyd County, Haralson County, Heard County, Paulding County, Polk County, and Walker counties. And we have talked to many of the leaders in all of these counties and received support. And we've also received support in the endorsement of the University of West Georgia, who will be instrumental in helping us do this work in the months and years to come. With that, Mr. President, I'll yield for questions if there's any. Otherwise, I'll yield the well.
You don't appear to have any questions. Any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Resolution 565? The chair sees none. The questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none, and the committee sub is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the adoption of the resolution by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the adoption of the resolution by substitute, the yeas are 49, the nays are 0. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. For what purpose does the senator from the 54th rise?
Yes, Mr. President, pursuant to Senate Rule 7-1-10B, I give notice that at the appropriate time I intend to move on the Senate, that the Senate consider House action on HB 517.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 517?
House Bill 517 by Representatives Carson of the 46 and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2A of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to student scholarship organizations so as to provide for the inclusion of earned interest in the calculation of minimum revenue obligations for scholarships and tuition grants and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
The proper notice has been provided. Chair recognizes the Rules Chairman.
Mr. President, thank you for calling me. I'd like to make a motion on some action needed here in the Senate. I ask unanimous consent that Senate Rule 3-1.2 be suspended to allow a committee report to be read, Mr. President.
Can you say that again? Mr. Secretary, please read the caption of Senate Bill 267.
Senate Bill 267 by Senators Rahman of the 5th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 3 of Title 47 of the OCGA relating to teachers' retirement system of Georgia so as to provide that a retired member who elected an optional retirement allowance that included one or more named beneficiaries shall be eligible to change and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Retirement recommends this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Robertson of the 29th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
The senator from the 53rd has eloquently asked for unanimous consent that the rules be suspended and a committee report to be read. Is there objection? The chair hears none. Mr. Secretary, will you please read the committee report?
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Retirement has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation that Senate Bill 267 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Robertson of the 29th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
The chair recognizes the majority leader for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate stand adjourned until 10 a.m. on Friday, 11 March 2022.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read your announcements?
The Rules Committee will meet immediately upon adjournment in 4:50 today. The Retirement Committee will meet in 310 of the CLOB at 2 p.m. today, and the Finance Committee will meet in 4:50 at 3 p.m. today. All other committee meetings have been canceled. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Does any senator wish to make an announcement? The majority leader has moved that the Senate stand adjourned until Friday, March 11th, 2022 at 10 a.m. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senate stands adjourned.